again. A very warm welcome to the final session of Berlinale Talents in this year. We are very happy and grateful to have many special guests in the room, obviously these two guys, and also our talents, the 200 filmmakers from all around the world, from 60 countries coming to us. We are very grateful to have you here for the last 6 days. And for today, I'm extremely thankful also to the editors here in the room. Maybe if you mind, wave your hand. So great to have you here because I listened carefully to their workshop the last days, at least when I tried to sneak in to find out a bit more what I could ask one of our special guests and obviously both of you today. Welcome to the power of discomfort, crafting sentimental value. Here next to me, this is Eskil Vogt, director of many acclaimed films, for example, Blind, that screened in Panorama in 2014 here at the festival. And Eskil is also obviously known for his long-time collaboration with Joachim Trier as the co-writer of, you might think about it, Sentimental Value. Eskil, as one of the alum of the very first hours of Berlinale Talents from 2004. How is it to be back on stage here? And yeah, maybe you would like to share some ideas about being a talent these days.
Well, thank you for coming. This is very, we got a little stage fright behind the scenes, seeing all of you people. And I remember, of course, being a talent in a long time ago here in Berlin, and I was same year as Joachim Trier. We were here together, and I remember sitting in an audience like you and listening to like very impressive people talk, like Michael Ballhaus, the cinematographer, and I feel a little bit like an imposter, like sitting here now. But I'll try to make the most of it. No, it was really fun. I kind of envy. I hear you have a lot of workshops and stuff now that we didn't have back then. We had these amazing talks and we could see films and just hang out. So it was more relaxed, which was probably nice for me and Joachim because we both just finished film school, him in London and me in Paris. So we kind of also a little bit fed up with workshops and all that. But I have a very fond memory of my time here in Berlin at the Berlinale Talents, and also remember getting to know one of the producers from my film school that I hadn't really had spent time with, and we became friends here, and now he's co-producing my next film, so that's nice.
So this might work when you're more here to hang out and also to have a good time. Speaking about this time, I think it was just before you worked, or maybe you already started working on Reprise these days, and there, not for the first time, but there was also Olivier, Bugge, Coutté coming in this trio, if I'm allowed to say.
Is it on? Oh, it's on. Okay.
Yes. Olivier is the editor of, among other, the 6 features of Joachim Trier. I think I can call it a long time or almost lifelong collaboration that the 3 guys of you having. You also worked at your, not beginning of the career, but quite early with Mike Mills on Beginners.
It's true, yes.
One film some of you might remember well, more recently with Ali Abbasi on The Apprentice. Yes. So obviously many interesting and great directors.
Joachim is they're only making a film every 3rd year, so I have to pay the bills, so I have to go and do something else.
Makes sense. You just said behind stage that working is kind of not a secret, but yes, a lifesaver also for an editor working with different directors. But still, maybe you want to share some ideas about this collaboration with Joachim and also Eskil. How important is it? And I think honest, this is one of the questions also our editors come up with, because there is so much discussion about trust in the editing room, in the editing process. So maybe you can share for the start here a bit about this trustful collaboration that you have with Joachim.
Absolutely. I was talking to a Danish editor a couple of years ago called Janus Bilskov, who worked with Bille August his whole life. And he said that at some point he felt obliged to tell Bille August, I'm so honored to have worked with you my whole life. You have created me and I have created you and we have been together. And I feel the same. I actually said that to Joachim one time. I said, I'm actually so honored and happy to have had this friendship and creative friendship, because I feel that artistically we have grown together. I feel I have grown with you guys, and so it has made who I am as an editor. I've also worked with other people, but this is like the home band that I come home to and I play with, and when we strike the chords, then I feel I know this music, and we might make a new record this time, but there's a fundamental understanding of the musicality, of the interest of films, the way that we look at acting and the playfulness, the use of music, that I relive when I come back to this relationship. So that's a very important band to play in. and about the trust, that I've mentioned that several times before in other contexts as well. That's the most important. As an editor, you have your avid, you have your screenings, and then you have the trust of the director. That's almost anything, all the ingredients you have. Trust is a very important thing to have when you're in an artistic process, because to get to any point, a good point or a bad point or the next point, you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to try to make sequences that doesn't work, and you have to not fear the judgment of the people that you work with. I'm sure it's the same for you. I'm sure the same for actors as well. And that, because as an editor, you can really quickly say, okay, shit, he's going to judge me if I make a mistake, so now I'm going to play it safe, and I'm just going to go down this way and start with a wide shot, because then we fucking know where we are. And so you don't dare take in any risk. And in this room with Joachim and Eskil and everybody else around it, I feel totally free to fuck up as much as I want, and I will still be held, and it might not be the right thing that I'm doing in this sequence. It might be a genius thing that I'm doing in this sequence, but at least I know that it can be the stepstone for the next endeavor in the edit and the next sequence. So it's very important. Trust is number one, habit is number two, editing system is number, some people caught on Premiere, habit is number two, screening is number three.
I just want to, Joachim, we talk about trust in collaborators. You don't get to that, and you don't have these kind of long collaborations that are fruitful if you don't have a director like Joachim who is a true collaborator. And I think that comes from he's not afraid of losing control over the project, so he wants people to contribute on every stage. He wants me to contribute, and when we write, it's like an equal collaboration in many ways. He never says in the writing room, it has to be like this because I'm the director. If we disagree, we argue and we brainstorm until we find a third idea that we both like, and that's so we co-sign that script. That's both our work, and Joachim is very that makes it very meaningful for me, and that makes it like I want to continue working like that. And then of course he takes that script to the shoot and wants the actors to contribute and wants the cinematographer to contribute, and things change in that process. And then Olivier is invited in the same way, and Joachim, he doesn't look for like yes people. I mean, both me and Olivier can be very difficult at times, and Joachim doesn't, he's not afraid of that. He's not afraid of disagreements, discussions, you know, because he feels it makes the film better. But of course, in the editing, Joachim has final say, but I, as a screenwriter, I just want to be heard. You know, I want to argue my position or propose my ideas, but then it's Joachim's film, you know, that he's making and finishing together with Olivier. But I think that's also a note to directors. You know, there's this idea of directors that they should always know the answer, and that you lose kind of credibility if you don't. So you have to fake it if you don't have it. And I think that can also make you very alone as a director, because you need other people to help you, you know. And it's when people propose you stuff that you realize what's right for you, you know. So you need those people to bring their ideas and bring their energy and make moments happen, you know, because that's what we're doing when we're shooting and editing and writing. Try to find those moments that people want to see that mean something. You can't plan for that.
Wow, that's already a start. When we think about our annual topic, we always use one topic to discuss here, an annual theme for Berlinale Talents. It's creating and confusion. I could imagine that you both can share from very different angles, from the writing process and then from the editing room, what might confusion mean there, what might also be a challenge of confusion. I just, at this point, would love to add one little, maybe anecdote that we found out about when we went through our application system. As many of you in this room also know, when you apply here, you always send us some information about yourself. And in the old days, we asked for one line about yourself, your work, and your life. And from 2004, we found a beautiful line here that is not yours, no worries, Eskil, that is called, I love to read it out, "My passion for cinema is one of the few things that overcomes my general confusion." And we think it's a brilliant point to have it here, so very big shout out also to Joachim Trier, who applied with this sentence some years before. Actually, you can check, it's... Yeah, and maybe you can share, because you were already in this process then and today, what it is to maybe let confusion in your work, or maybe even get the confusion out. I don't know what it is about you, Olivier.
I'm trying not to have so much confusion. My life is fucked up enough for me to try to at least structure my life inside the edit suite. So I don't know so much about the confusion. I mean, as an editor, you don't want to tell people everything all the time, obviously. But there's a difference between being lost or not knowing where the next dramatical point is exactly. But the point as an editor is, even though the audience is going through darkness, they don't know exactly where this is going now, they have to feel that there's a hand that's holding them. There's a difference between being confused in a dark room where you're all alone, and then being confused in a dark room where somebody's holding your hand and you think at some point there's a door that's going to open and you find the light to get out. So when we work, we try to it's a balance constantly between giving enough information for the drama to move forward, for the characters to get an involvement and understand the psychology of the characters. But you don't want to give too much information, because you want to withhold, for several purposes, because you want to keep the narrative going until the end credit. So that's where the answers should come, but they're not before, because then people will get tired. But especially because you want to leave an open room for interpretation. And this is a very important thing for us. So often in the editing process, some dialogues that might be a little too emphasizing one point, or that could be some of the things that we trim out in the edit, not because they are wrong script-wise, but sometimes because you want to just leave a little bit, leave the interpretation a little bit more open, still a little bit more open.
It's this is very important part of our aesthetic, I think, that we create together, and I think we're very aligned on this, is you have to confuse people. I mean, use confusion, it's kind of negative, but you have, I like more, you have to create a mystery. You know, you can't give information without first creating a question in the spectator. You can't just film two people talking and expect that the spectator will listen, you know? So you have to make it more interesting, you know? Just like the trick of just, instead of having the first line of dialogue describe, you know, the character someone is talking about, you just say he or she, and people will like, okay, who are they talking about? And then you give information in the second or third line that makes the spectator understand who they're talking about, and then the spectator was a little bit confused, but then they feel smart for catching up, and then they don't feel the exposition, you know, then they feel involved by it. So you have to do those things all the time. It's like when, in the old days, when you watched linear TV and you switched channels and you came like 20 minutes late into a bad movie, that movie was suddenly very interesting. Because it's like, who is that person and why they're going over there? But because you skipped the first two scenes, that just explains everything, which is so boring, you know? So I think that idea
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, that idea of giving...
I'm going to use that.
Feel free. To give information before the spectator is ready for it, you know? But then again, you don't want to be stuck in the editing without the necessary information. So sometimes Joachim and I, we write stuff that we hope we're not going to need in the edit. And Olivier is the first to like, we don't need that, you know. Yeah, but he'll be mad at us if we hadn't had it, you know, if we...
Exactly.
But also there's sometimes you write stuff that you think is absolutely necessary. And then Olivier will say, no, we don't need that. And then you see it without, and suddenly you have that, oh, this is interesting, because somehow people piece together what's going on here, because that absence creates an energy, you know. So that's, he continues that work in the editing in a very, sometimes very radical way. That's really cool, I think. And I like to quote Billy Wilder quoting Ernst Lubitsch, I think. It's like, don't say 4, say 2 + 2 and make the spectator make up 4. And if you do it that way, they'll be your friend forever.
That's the paradox of exposition. When you have it, you cut it out. When you don't have it, you're like, why didn't you shoot that house? I don't know where we are.
It's like you take the umbrella with you, because then it won't rain, you know.
Good. I mean, let's see.
Did we confuse you?
Already a bit confused. Maybe to continue, maybe not only on confusion, but also about how maybe you bring the mystery in, and also how you solve some of these challenges in the editing room, would come to your actual film. I mean, many of you, I guess, have already seen it, Sentimental Value. It's the 6th fiction feature of Norwegian director Joachim Trier, co-written by him and our guest Eskil, and edited by Olivier. And this film, for those who haven't had the chance to see it yet, is set again in Oslo. It follows the complex relations of 2 sisters and their estranged film director father. his work or process to work on a new film, and also their farewell from their family home. I know it's not right to sum it up like that, but...
Perfect. Just curious, how many here have seen it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty good percentage.
I could have spared this sentence, but great for...
There were 2 people there who hadn't seen it, so
Yeah.
they needed it.
That was for you guys. And
In any case, whatever is said, people don't understand. We'll just say that it has to do with the theme of confusion.
Yes.
There we go. So the film won the Grand Jury Prize at the Cannes Film Festival and is currently nominated for 9 Academy Awards. Including Best Original Screenplay for Eskil and Joachim and Best Editing for Olivier. So we keep the fingers crossed for you. And to discuss the film, we thought we would jump right into one scene, and we would now introduce one of the main protagonists of the film with the first clip, one of the few who actually did not get an Academy Award nomination. Unfortunately, so we're now here to introduce one of the protagonists. Could you show us the clip of the house, please? So maybe we start right here. Could you let us know, Eskil, about how you came up with including the house as one of the, if you can say so, main protagonists, and what does it mean for the story and how this developed, including with the other characters intervening?
It was, the beginning point for the story was a story about sisters and about growing up with the same parents in the same house and still having very different childhoods because of the age gap or because your personality brings out something else in your parents. We found that very interesting. We knew Renate Reinsve from Worst Person. We wanted to write a new role for her, so she would be one of the sisters. So we're working on that, and the thing is, Joachim and I were very, very interested in character dynamics, the psychology of characters, and that kind of drama. But that's not enough for us. We want it to be cinematic in a way. We want something else, and we're not that focused on plot. And if you get a plot going, it's just cause effect in the chain until the end, and it's very hard to have a moment where you can see things from another angle or introduce themes or just, escape being on the eye level with the characters all the time. And so we were looking for something. And the weird thing that happened was that Joachim's mother was selling a family house while we were writing, which is those kind of things that come together in a way when you're doing something creative. And in the beginning it was just annoying because Joachim had to answer his mother's telephone calls while we were writing. And I got like, again. And he went out, and now we talked to his mother, came back in. No, didn't sell this time either. We have to put it back on the market in a few months with a lower price. And at one point we just went, yeah, isn't this the thing we're looking for? Because then we suddenly can have that kind of time span of 100+ years, 130 years, compared to the short lifespan of a human being, and that pushes, I think, the characters towards reconciliation, which is the theme in the film, because our time here is limited, So that was something that inspired us, and then we could, because this film, Sentimental Value, is probably in some ways the most classical drama we've written together. There's a lot of scenes that have two people talking and going through some sort of conflict with a resolution, and we usually don't have that many of those, but this story needed that, and we were interested in exploring that. But then it was so nice to have that house to break that up and give that perspective. And also, and I think that's part of the aesthetic we share, I think all our films has a montage in the beginning, and the one that Oslo August 31st, we didn't have one in the script, but then Olivier and Joachim took the montage from the end and put it in the beginning. So then all of them now have one. Yeah.
Wasn't it like that on Worst Person in the World as well?
Well, yeah, it had a different kind of thing, yeah. But yeah, so we like that. We like the openings to have those montages, and it's also become something that we just do as a team. I mean, I know when I'm writing that Olivier will edit it, and since Surprise, he shows how well he does that. And I remember doing our third film in the US, and the American producers, because there were some very complicated montages, and they just looked at me, Joachim, saying, "But how do you know this will work?" And I remember, Joachim, I mean, you have so much doubt when you're making a film. You're afraid of everything. But we never even, asked ourselves that question. Of course that's going to work. That's our language. And we know that because we've done it a lot, and we know Olivier will do it in the edit. And of course, we didn't know. We knew it was going to start like that, and we knew there was going to be another one. But in the script, it was hard to know exactly what was going to be where. And I remember writing a lot of it, and then I wrote that part of her writing her essay. And then when Joachim read that, he said, "Yeah, that's the most interesting part." So then we knew that would be the start of it. And then when Olivier did it, of course, there's a lot of simplifying of the voiceover, I guess.
I'm quoted somewhere, I think in Germany last time we were here, to say that a film reading brain is more intelligent than a film watching brain. script reading brain. So it's sometimes it was just to say that sometimes the many details can be a little bit can be a little bit much for the audience, depending on where exactly the montage is to follow. Is it this lead or this lead? Or many of these, so it was just slightly rewritten as you came in the edit at some point, and then we were looking at it and we were trying to redo some of the lines, and it's just a normal structuring work. Some ideas are good, some ideas worked a little bit less, and then they were moved into the second montage. It's just a work. But some of these footage is, now that I'm looking at it now again, quite a bit of this footage is shot like documentary style, because then there was like one room, another room, the kids running, then there was the play with the hands up on the windows and stuff. So the edit starts with the voiceover, with the story being told, and then there were some images, there was scenes in there that was attached directly to some of the lines, but a lot of then this scene and this window's closing and the rainy window, and many of that is just things that I grabbed around the house and then try to make like a poetic sequence that at the same time has a narrative forward momentum. We
write that sequence, and then before the shoot we write a sequence where we add also extra images, just put it in the script as like bonus things that we know might be useful, and might be useful for Olivier in the edit. So, but also I just need to say you can see there's no, I think this is a very musical, inviting sequence, but it also tells you a lot, there's a lot of exposition here, there's a lot of setups. She says it's about the house, but it's about her and her family, and of course, the father and the mother quarreling, and the divorce, and all that. There's a wound in her that she's talking about, and she's talking about in a slightly distant way that makes her a bit. She wants to make this emotional monologue to get into the theater school, and it disappoints her a bit, you know, but it's all there. Her pain is there already. And of course you can use that house later to give a perspective, and also like just punctuations in scenes. Suddenly you film through a window, you feel like the house is watching. It gives you another gear that's not a conventional one.
And would you say in this meaning that the voiceover or narrator would help this openness and the montage scene at the beginning and maybe also over the film to bring in some more options here to create? What does this mean for your process, Olivier, for example?
The specific voice?
Yeah, the idea that voiceover and so the images can sometimes a bit,
I love doing these montages. Now I expect them to be in the script, so if there isn't, I expect there to be one in the next script as well.
He wants more in the next one. He said like, we need 5 next one. The order is in.
The woman that is speaking now, that's doing the voiceover now, is an old actress that used to play in Joachim's grandfather's film, so she's very, very old. She's like 93 or something. And we did cast other actresses for the role just to see how it worked, but moving down in age, it became increasingly problematic to distinct the voiceover from the people in the film. The younger it gets, the more people would ask themselves, is that Nora speaking or is it? And I often get asked that question, who is the voice and my answer is, I don't know. Some people say it's the grandmother speaking, some people say it's Nora, some people say it's the house. I would say all of those answers are correct.
It's very interesting. I mean, we made films with a male narrator, reprise, and no one asked who that was.
True.
But in the Worst Person in the World, we had a woman, and then a lot of people started asking. And I think people are less used to a female narrator. A male one is just invisible to people. But as soon as there's a woman talking, people are like, who's that woman? You know, what she's doing here? And so that's interesting, I think. And I guess that's also what was the reason of casting someone with such a distinct voice, but it was also, like you say, a very poetic thing, because even though we hadn't thought about her while we were writing, we had listened to her one-woman show about her mother who was captured and tortured during the war for resistance work, and that was a very moving thing that we listened to on audio while we were writing. And also Joachim's grandfather had his first film in Cannes in 1960, and she played the lead, and now she's the narrator in this film that's also, you know, partly inspired by Joachim's family history, because his grandfather, the film director, was captured during the Second World War and had suffered from that afterwards. So that was definitely part of the background for the film.
And I mean, we want to use them basically to enlarge the films thematically, or to deepen the psychology of a character or a situation. But and that can sound pretty boring, but we want them to be entertaining. We want those montages to be entertaining. The first one, the second one, the ones that are in the other films as well, Worst Person in the World. So as an editor, it's a joy to make these small emotional narrative music videos with fast cuts and slow cuts and change of music and sound effects. It's like a small dish that you can like build up slowly by slowly and come back to and look at. It's fun as a small sequence to work on.
Yeah, and the voiceover is also kind of music. It's a music sequence even without the music. So it's a rhythm, and you know. People always say, you make a film, why is there voiceover? You know, let the images tell the story. And that's true. I mean, you shouldn't use voiceover for like the easy options of where you don't manage to tell the story, or don't manage to tell what a character is feeling, and you need a voiceover to help you with that. That can feel very easy and not very cinematic, but I feel voiceover is super cinematic. It's musical, it's rhythm, and also you can use it to kind of orchestrate emotion, because you can tell things like about people dying. You can do it in a very unsentimental way, but if you tell and don't show, you can be a little bit more distant and more efficient about it, and then when you show, it means more. Then you have another gear. So I love voiceover, and I think one of the things we did with Worst Person in the World, our previous film, was that we want to get back to that energy of our first film that had a lot of voiceover, that had a lot of freedom and was kind of impure but had a lot of energy, and we want to get back to that. And when we started working on Sentimental Value, sometimes you write the next film like in opposition to the last one, and this time we felt, no, let's continue in that vein. It's not Worst Person, it's a very different film. It's more mature, it's not about finding yourself in your 20s, it's about more adult characters and some heavier themes in a way, but it's related in the way it's told, I think.
And it also continues maybe your work on the ideas of artist drama, if I can say so. And we might for this show the next clip to introduce Renate Reinswe's role in Nora a bit further via her stage fright. So please for the clip. That is kind of a dramatic introduction of a character, maybe per se, a dramatic entrance to theater. She is a theater actor. We learn later on that her father, film director, is not so interested and keen about the theater career of his daughter. But also it's a scene about some maybe not typical routine, but also very practical work behind stage, I think, and maybe also a scene that at the end works out and might not be so conflict-orientated and dramatic. So I would like to ask you about the development of this scene and how you would, introduce the dramatic here, or maybe the non-dramatic.
I think since we're writing for Renate quite early, we're thinking maybe she could be a stage actress, because Renate is a very accomplished stage actress in Norway, and that's what she was doing before she got film roles. But she doesn't have this kind of stage fright, but a lot of other actors we know have it, and the fact that they do that, I mean, it's so important to them, that's what they want to do, but it's still at that cost that they vomit backstage before they go on, that's a fascinating character to us, and that was something that triggered us. Of course, it's also exciting scene, I think, and very dramatic, as you say, but someone who wants something and doesn't want it, and of course we don't want to make films about creative people because we are in love with ourselves, it would be a bit too navel-gazing. So then when the film director father came in, we were kind of hesitant about that. But that was also like the contrast character of someone like these great artists of that generation or older, who wrote those wonderful books or made those wonderful films that really could see people full of empathy and nuance, and then you read about their lives and they were brutes, they treated people terribly, and we were like, how does that work? That's so interesting, and how can we avoid becoming someone like that, maybe? So that was what was fascinating about those two characters, is that kind of contrast within them. And also I think we make a lot of stories about characters that are passive. I mean, she's not passive in this scene in a way because, I mean, her conflict is very obvious and it's action-filled, but still most like traditional heroes, they know what they want to do, and there's like outside obstacles that meet them. It's not the inside obstacles, which is what we are mostly interested in. And of course, then the art can help open these characters so that we understand a little bit of what's going on inside them. Like when you see a scene from the father's film, you understand him more. You know, there's something in him you suddenly get a glimpse of, or the contents of the script, you don't know that much about it, but when that changes, your perception of him changes. So that's also something, you know, we are drawn to kind of passive characters that don't know what they want, and they have an inner conflict, and then traditional, you know, truths about film say these are not cinematic characters, and we disagree. But then we have to make them interesting by opening them up with cinematic form, you know, and being subjective and having montages or having moments when you just feel their emotion. And of course, you need very good actors. Renate is so great. And the rest of the film, she retreats into this sort of depressive state, which is a very difficult state to make interesting in films because it's so static and can be also very narcissistic, you know, as an emotion. And then you see how she plays this. You can see the comical version here when people are asking her if she's okay, and she's yeah. And you see she's not okay, you know. And same, there's a pivotal scene that we might revisit later where her sister comes to her towards the end, and she asks that same person, "Are you okay?" And Renate says yes, and you can see on her face that she is struggling, you know. So she contradicts the line with just physical acting, drawing you into that character. But again, structuring the script with that kind of character, and also in the edit, you have a passive character that sort of explodes into the film like this, and then retreats, becomes more passive, and other characters take over the story. And how do you do that in a way that doesn't disappoint people or feel that she's been away too long? And it's all about, I think, what we found is about how we leave her. When we leave her, and how so that when we pick her up again, you feel that something has happened to her. So while we've been with the other characters, you don't pick her up at the same point. You pick her up and, oh, you know, you kind of felt she was heading in that direction when you left her, and then when you pick her up, oh, it's even worse now, or, you know, that's the kind of balancing you have to do.
Yeah, and also for the editing, I guess, starting the character like this huge entrance, and then getting maybe a bit slowing down some speed. How was this? And also for this scene, especially, I mean, there's also very funny at some points, but also great conflict of the character. What was this for the editing? How could you shape this scene?
I think this sequence shows also very much who we are as filmmakers, because we like to have at the core of her fear is, of course, an artistic vulnerability, and not only for her, but for every artist that is going to present something or is going to work something. You have a nervousness. We had talked about the trust before in the edit suite, but of course I'm also nervous the first time I have to show something to Joachim before the process, and we're like deep inside it. And when you are invested artistically into something, you are nervous. I'm nervous sitting on this stage. You're always nervous a little bit, so you have to throw yourself into it and then overcome that to be able to perform.
If you're not nervous, something is wrong.
Yes.
It doesn't mean enough for you.
Yes, but I would say the way that this sequence. So we like to have thematically strong psychological character drama at the core of it, but we like to tell it in a fun, paceful way. Also, we also have, you'll show later, some more slow, dramatic scenes, but this sequence shows very much what we like, to wrap it in a dynamic and entertaining way at the same time as it has the psychological strength in it, pondus in it. And concretely, as an editor, to work on a sequence like this, that's, again, it's like a small fun sequence, because when I look at it now, I see in the script there was not, or in the script, when we shot it, the idea was not that the light goes on and off on the front of the stage. That's something that we have to pump up the humor a little bit. Let the music stop and the light go off again and then go up again. I think in the first cut it went up and off 2-3 times, and it became too silly. And then we had another music. The music that we were on, that I had put on at first, was very dramatic and dark. So that became like, okay, it's coloring even though we know it's non-diegetic music. It's inside, played on the stage. It still colored what happened, and so does this music now. And so we had to find places where it fits, where it doesn't become too silly. It becomes like a pure vaudeville, but still has and was still music that was strong enough so you could hear it when we were backstage, because that dark music disappeared when you went back. So it's not with some trumpets that are high and loud. So now you're in the back, now you're in the front, now you're in the back. So yeah, that's a little gem to work on.
But like you say, it's also about creativity, and we all have that feeling. You're on set and everything's held together with duct tape, and you're just hoping for like the result to be magical, and it often is, but it's like it's barely being held together.
I definitely like the routines of everyone else being around, having the tape already prepared, and the stage manager is just standing behind her and waiting for the next cue, what might happen here. So I think this makes it very interesting. I would already maybe like also for you guys, I guess this is a great chance for you also to ask. I thought so. I know we still have some clips, but maybe we already jump in. Maybe because this is such a specific, we have such a specific guest. Do we have some of our editors here who already have a question? Would you, maybe go first, so we give them the first chance.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I'm one of the editors here at the Talents. I have a question about one of the scenes that I feel like you were talking about, maybe that you are going to show a clip. It's towards the end of the movie when one of the younger sister arrives at Nora's apartment, and she finally reads the script. And it's such a beautiful set of scenes. Maybe it's because I have a very special relationship with my sister myself. I found that the love and emotion there was so relatable, and it broke me a little when I was watching it. And the editing there is very truthful and genuine. Like, it doesn't feel like it's trying to manipulate the viewer by adding a very emotional score or a specific camera view. So I'm curious to how you worked through this scene with Joachim Trier. Was it an edit that you found very quickly when you were working, or did you have a process where you revised and tweaked it a bit? And also specifically, how much did that change from what was originally in the script?
Good question.
You showed a version of that at the wrap party. That wasn't that
exactly
far off. Yeah.
I would say that the scene falls in two parts. There's the part at the table, and then there's the part on the bed. I can say in general, what I'm looking for in a scene like this is to be obviously very close to the character. if it's possible, I mean, there's no rules, there's no dogmas, but I love personally when I can see a good actress, like both of these women are, go from one emotion all the way up to another emotion. I love that. If the acting is spot on, then I don't need to cut. You know, you can feel immediately when you cut that something they're starting to trick you with the feeling. So if you can stay in a shot as long as possible, and somebody gets an information, they take it in, they think about it, they start changing. At the end of it, they're like happy or sad or crying or laughing. That's fantastic. And these two girls, women, they are, of course, good at that. Then what I also like, what I try, and that will also come through when we talk about the scene when the father hands Nora the script. I can feel when several shots are put together. So sometimes I like, let's say there's 5 takes, I like take number 3, and then I stay true to that take. And I might come to an end where it's like, oh fuck, I wish that they had set that line a little bit different as they do in take 4. It's a little bit better on that line. But I don't want to use take 4. I want to stay on take 3 because I can feel, and there's one cut, and I always see it at the scene when they're handing the script. I can see, okay, now he's going from take 5 and he's just using take 6 and he's going back to take 5 again. Okay, and it's minimal because the drama and the drama between the two sisters and the father and Nora, you're measuring every blink of an eye on a gold scale. You know, you can feel every little movement and the rise in 0.3 degrees in the temperature and going down again. So that's, if you call that truthful shot, that's a beautiful way of saying it. It's staying close to the psychology on the actor. If you look at the way Joachim shoots dialogue scenes like that, he's very close to the axis. So the camera is almost like you can feel the ear in the frame. So when they look, they almost look in frame. They look side, you know, in a classical way. In film school, they'll tell you the 30-degree angle or whatever they say. But here it's like really on the shoulder. You can feel the presence of the characters when they talk. Particularly for the first part of the scene, there was a shot, a tracking shot coming in from the side, ending up on Nora's face, on her side like this, and there was many takes of this because the timing was that she was reading, understanding what's going on, slowly starting to break down, and then the shot would reach her face and then she would start crying. But I never used that shot, and that was before Joachim came. It's true, I sent it to the rep party, and it just had that shot in front of her because that's truthful. And I think that the tracking shot in from the side is like flagging a minute and a half ahead, saying like something important's gonna happen. I can almost hear the violins in the track before we get there. And then the sister is like slowly breaking down, and she's more and more in tears. That scene killed me. So that part of the scene didn't change much. And then there was the second half on the bed. There and now I forgot exactly what's going out, but there were some details about the upbringing between the two sisters that is not there anymore. But still, you have the complete sense of the coming to terms with the different upbringing that they have, and with their father, and then there's some
and their mother, yeah,
and the mother, and then there's some small improvised parts towards the end. Joachim doesn't improvise. I mean, improvisation is like a complicated thing to talk about. I don't think you should leave the dramaturgy to the actors, because then they'll just fuck it up. So a lot of improvisation just becomes chaos. but you have a strict road, and that's the way Joachim shoots his film. He has a strict road, and then they have like a 20% latitude where they can like improvise words and lines on a straight road. And then towards the end of the scene, there's a few dialogue bits that I improvised when the two sisters, they say, the little sister says, "I love you," and then she replies, "I love you too." That's an improvised part. So I know that scene changed a little bit.
Yeah, I can add to that. I mean, it's that scene is very close to what's written, but still very different. And it was written to be kind of the emotional climax for the sisters, but it was more about Nora, Renate Reinsve's character's emotion. It was about her cracking and opening and like having this shield that guard that she just let down suddenly after reading the script. And the sister's emotion wasn't that important, but the way Inga acts, what she did with that role just changed the scene a lot, because she brought a lot of emotion, and it became also about her caring for her sister and her love for her sister. And I think the way Olivier edited from the very first version is that instead of being on Nora, he prioritized being on the little sister, and she's mirroring the emotions. She's feeling a lot. There's a lot of emotion in that scene, much more than I thought there would be. And it feels true because they did it for real, in that moment. So they do the scene like 90% as written, but in a different way that just works like magic until the scene is supposed to end. And then what Olivier is referencing is Joachim can feel the emotion in the room, and he's next to the camera, and just one take, I think, he says to Inga, "Go on the bed and hug her," because he doesn't usually speak during takes, but he's just like, "Let's do that." Camera's handheld. And then she does it. Kasper Tuxen, the DOP, follows and makes a beautiful image that actually the poster in Norway of the two girls, the two women hugging. And then she says, "I love you," completely improvised in the moment. I would never dare to write that. It would be like it's the subtext of the scene, so I would never put it like that. But when she does it, it's beautiful, And then Renate Reinsve in character responds in a very truthful way, like she says, "I love you," and Renate says, "Me too. I love you too." With a little bit of restraint, and it makes it so real and beautiful. And I think Joachim loved that take, but I was a little afraid it was too much. And I think you saw it in the rushes and just put it in there, like.
I'm the cheesy one.
Yeah, and then. And that's also interesting because that scene became even more powerful than we imagined. So one of the things that happened in editing was that Olivier tried to okay, this is so strong, and if we want to keep it that strong and keep all that magic that happened on the set that day, we need to move it towards the end, because there were like a couple of scenes where Nora meets Al Fanning's character at the theater. That was supposed to be after this one, and also when Al Fanning's character gives up the film. So that was a big job that you did, trying to make this even more the climax of the film and pushing those other stuff.
It's crazy because the scene in the theater, which now seems it seems obvious from a script, and it was there, of course, but it seems obvious that these two women, they are going to meet. But that scene was out until 3 weeks before we ended edit, because it was normally supposed to be placed after the two sisters had read the script. And there, because that scene became so strong, that it was hard to have any more conflicts or any more resolutions coming after that. But the scene was actually written so that it came after Nora had read the script. So when Elle Fanning is sitting in the theater telling that, oh, this girl seems like she's so much blah, 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 she's actually, Nora can feel, fuck, she's talking about me.
You felt more defensive in the way it was written, because when Rachel Kemp is attacking the character that she can't figure out, Nora, as written, because she has read the script, feels, I need to defend this character because it's me. You know, it had some sort of humor and insight that completely changed when you put it before. But it's still there in some weird way.
It became super painful that when you put the scene earlier and before she's sad at the premiere of Hamlet and breaking down on that night, and afterwards, when you put it in front of it, it becomes also super painful, because the true lovers in the film should be the father and Nora. They are the ones that should be together, and the intruder is Elle Fanning.
Metaphorical lovers, of course, yeah.
And yes, so when Nora at the end of the scene in the theater says, obviously he likes you, you should go with it, I can't work with him, it becomes double painful. It's like the wife saying to the mistress, yeah, if he loves you, go with it, good, get married with him. And so then her breakdown becomes even stronger, filled with that as well.
I think we're very intrigued to see the scene, but there are, I see the first hands. First of all, again, editor, maybe another editor question, and then we open to the entire audience. Another editor, all right, with a question? Now your chance. There, yes, please. I think, yeah. Can you give the mic to this? Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh, nice.
Mayor.
Sorry.
I really wanted to ask this question now because I think it links nicely, because it's to do with the parallel scene when Elle Fanning reads that part of the script. And I thought that this, for me, is the scene that turns this film into a masterpiece. Obviously, there were many good things, but that has stuck with me. And as someone who also directs, I'm obsessed with this moment, because I watched Elle Fanning's performance of this monologue that was written for Nora. And of course, she goes the full miles and she cries, and, you know, and her co-actress grabs her, and it's supposed to be amazing, but I watched it and I go, she has no idea what she's talking about. Like, this feeling is not known to her. And it's so satisfying when you then watch Nora or Donata do it, and you're like, she knows. She knows what it's like to be on the floor and beg. And I was wondering, I open it to editing, but I would also be curious about script. How do you show an amazing performance from a talented actress that needs to be good enough to be convincing of the performance and their worth as an actress, but still wrong?
I fully agree. It's a very good question, because it's like, she's a really good actress. She's just wrong for this role. And she plays somebody who's really convincing, but that is in the wrong place. It's like editing somebody. It's like an actor playing drunk that tries to play sober that is playing drunk. So there's too many layers in this acting that becomes really complicated. So you don't know which one you're looking at, because you can see on her when she's doing the act that she's a good actress, and in a Hollywood setting it would have been perfect. Everybody would have said yes. But I fully agree. For Nora, it's personal, and her way of acting it out, of course, becomes much more subtle, because she's not acting for someone. She's like realizing, shit, it's my life that is being discussed. So it's two very different performances, and editing-wise, it's not that difficult to cut Nora's performance. I mean, you just have to have the sensibility of what you want to do, but it's not that it's... But Elle Fanning's performance was difficult, more complicated to put together, because you have to have enough for her to look as if she's really good, but still it's not soulful crying, it's more professional crying. So that scene took a good look at the material many, many times to stitch together.
I'm very, thank you for the huge compliments you gave. I remember the first time you screened the film for an audience, for me that was in Cannes at the world premiere with 2,000 people, and it's terrible. People are coughing, and I feel no one likes it. But I remember the only thing I could appreciate was like those two scenes. I felt they really communicated in a nice way, and I was sitting next to Elle Fanning so that I could give her that compliment afterwards. It was I think it's if there's actors here, take comfort in if you go to an audition, it's not about your talent, it's about if you fit the part, and rejection is not about if you're good or bad. Of course that plays a role, but it's like you choose the lesser talented actor that fits the part every time, because there's some magic in that, of course. And the other thing, I think those performances of that monologue, they're directed with very different intention. I think that what creates the effect is that Elle Fanning is playing Rachel, and she wants to nail it. She wants to give a good performance, so she does it great, but she's maybe forcing it a little bit. And then Nora, she's just reading it, it's flat, and the emotion comes involuntarily, which is a completely different way of doing it, but of course much more moving, because you don't want to see people like information. You don't want to see people push emotion in your face. You want to see them crack, and show it when they don't want to show it. So I think that's what creates that effect.
Maybe another question here from, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for this very inspiring talk. I would be very interested in your writing process with Joachim. What are your rituals? And then when you write alone, because I read you write alone also, how do you structure your day? Do you procrastinate? And also, do you watch films with Joachim for inspiration? And Olivier, when are you involved in the screenwriting process? When do you read the first draft? Thank you.
Thank you. Joachim and I, we were friends before we started working together. I mean, we became friends because we both wanted to make films, and we loved films, and we shared that dream and that passion. So that was always part of it. But I think the friend thing is a big plus. I used to think it was also a minus, because we're not very efficient. We spend a lot of time just talking about everything and playing music. I mean, we always listen to music, and we sit in a room together for a very long time, and we just dream up stuff, and we brainstorm, and we might have some ideas that we're discussing from the beginning that Joachim brought into the room, or I did, but we don't know if the film is going to be one of those ideas. So we just try to block out a lot of time in our calendars, so we can actually sit uninterrupted and work. In the beginning, first films we made, I felt like other people are so much more professional than us, and they write films in half the time, and we are spending so much time. And why are we again talking about something that has nothing to do with what we're writing? And that was a little bit of frustration, but after the third or fourth film, I just embraced it and think, okay, that's our process. And those anecdotes, or those moments when we share our personal problems, or talk about a friend who's going through something, or a film we've seen, or whatever, it will feed into the process. Even the music we listen to will feed into the process. So that's part of the fabric of what we're doing. And I think what I've learned is a bit strange or different about our process is that we don't begin with a story. We begin with like minor things, like something about sisters, or thing with a house, and we add small ideas, and it wouldn't be fun if, and suddenly we have a lot of elements, and maybe after 6 months of working together, we'll begin discuss plot, you know? And then we'll do that with, there's just a big board, and we put all our favorite stuff, you know, stuff that we want to show people, you know, that has an energy to it, and that's not just functional. And we try to structure that so we can make a story where these moments have the most impact and become important, because if they're not important, Olivier here is going to take them out. So we need to make them count. So it's more about keep your darlings, you know, make your darlings important, and make a structure that, you know, the structure is just a structure. It's super important, but it's not a thing in itself. A lot of people talk about plot like it's the film. It's not. Plot is one of the tools you have to make stuff interesting, and the other tools are, you know, atmosphere and moments and character and psychology and images and sounds and all that stuff that makes you remember a film. You don't remember a film for its plot. Or that's very, very rarely. I mean, I think I can list, like, I don't know, 2 movies that I remember for the plot, and it would be like 7 and Back to the Future. You know, there's no. Usually, it's about other things, and we're very conscious about that, and so that's also why we try not to get trapped in that cause-effect chain of the plot, and still.
Well, once the plot starts ticking in something, it's a theme killer.
Yeah.
As soon as
well said, yeah.
People are like, okay, what's happening to that bomb? Is it going to go off? Are they going to kill that guy? Or what's
But then everything that doesn't have to do with that bomb, you have to take it out, you know, or you're doing a bad job in the editing or the writing. So
plot eats theme.
Plot eats theme. So we need to find the balance. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah. And Olivier, you chose first script. You read a few versions, and then you just said, "I need more distance to this, guys."
And I stopped. No, I mean, I tried not to get involved in the script until the very end. I think it's super difficult to read scripts, and sometimes when I've given feedback to other people on scripts, I fuck it up because I have authority. I'm going to tell you something about this, and then I don't. For me, it's really difficult to. My starting point is the material. So, and in the beginning, the reprise. I remember I was reading reprise a year and a half before the shooting draft, and it changed so much. And 2 characters became 1, and the backstory of 2 became 1. So at the end, in the editing, it was just like I'm fucked. I don't know who is who. So now I don't.
With reprise, we didn't either. It was.
They were 2. So the theme is confusion, right? So now I read it. Only read the final shooting draft just before shoot. So as I normally say, I've already signed the contract with the producers when I read the script. So I just beg for them not to fuck it up this time.
That's the trust, I guess.
That's the trust.
Yeah, we work. We try to avoid what you saw with Reprise, our first film. We wrote so many drafts, and I love writing, especially writing like the end. Joachim and I usually sit together. It takes us a year to write like a good first draft that can be used for financing and casting. We spent 10 months together, and I spent 2 months just writing, like really fast, and sending it to Joachim so he gives me notes. And I love that process. Like I always begin at the start, and I write until the end. So it's like watching the film for the first time. I love that. I hate redrafting. I think that's like, I'd rather spend like 3 more months working out the plot before I start writing than do as we have done with Reprise, our first film, and The Louder and Bombs, our third film, like doing like a real redrafting where you have to like pull everything apart. I think it's super painful. I like the second and the third draft to be like refinements of the first. I like to hit close to the target with the first draft, or I don't enjoy that process of like reinventing everything.
Maybe another question? I think there are some hands up.
Hi. Sorry, my question is about a scene, I think, which got left out, because the clip we saw right over here, at least in the published version, there's a scene that she goes to the hospital and the mother is lying motionless. And both sisters meet, in the hospital scene. I don't know whether it got left out on the scripting stage or on the editing stage. But it was a very crucial scene because now you see only the mother with this thing. So what was the discussion? Because, in the script, you immediately get a sense of her jitteriness on the scene we just saw. And you also might look at the father in a different way because you see the woman in the hospital. So it felt like what was the discussion about that particular scene? And overall, my question is about the structuring because it was like every scene between the script and the film, you see that few lines have been edited out or the beginning has been changed, And there were a lot of lovely lines as well. For example, the whole death of the cinema forum and those things. So what did you feel? Did you feel bad because they were editing it out? And was your concern also because now, because of those scenes being left out, the dramatic structures comes much more closely at certain points of time in the film, as opposed to the long script? So what was the rationale of structuring it?
Well, the script we give out that you got in your hands out, that we try to be honest, it's the script that was before the shooting. So that I was always looking for that when I was trying to figure out how to write script, was to find scripts that were different than the final edit, because that's when you learn something. So there are a lot of stuff that's cut out, and actually we wrote the film, and it wasn't, I can't remember the length of the script. I think it was 128 pages or something, but we knew it was written to be a 2.5-hour film. And then in the edit, Joachim and Olivier took a direction of making it shorter, or for many reasons. It's and some things I miss just because they're funny, like the death of cinema thing was very funny. I know that was part of the French sequence that was very, very long, so I completely understand why it was cut down. And there's a lot of examples like that. You like it, but you see there's a good version without it. So that's. But if the death of the mother, if you remember in the discussions you had.
Yeah, the mother.
The mother in the hospital.
Yeah. Oof, there's many different many things. First of all, I always think that it's when you watch theater play in a film, at some point I start asking myself, how much should I be involved in what they're saying? Am I just watching them playing and that's enough? Or should I now start getting into the words that they're saying? And for us to be able, there was many more scenes. There was 2 scenes when she's on stage. The one that you're in, which is like cut when she shouts, "Listen." That scene is like half the length, and then there was another one where you could see the sister sitting in the room, a phone ringing up in the dresser room, and then they would meet at the hospital. You understand, these 2 girls that have been looking at each other, they're actually sisters, and then you would have the mother. There were different reasons. They became very long after we have now understood that she has overcome her stage fright. She started acting. She's actually really good. Then that was enough for telling that story. Then it became long listening. Now they say this word. Am I supposed to interpret what they say? I don't understand what they're saying. They're speaking in old language. I was slightly confused. And then we don't need the scene with the mother. We don't need them to throw that emotion. And then there was also, technically, the shot was a bit weird. The mother was lying there with an open mouth. And I know when people die, my mother just died like half a month before, at least they closed the mouth. So it looked like a bit gory that she was lying there with an open door. So there was like things.
Yeah, things change. Yeah.
Things changed, and it worked perfectly. And also that way of just ending it sharp, boom, when she is the applause, cut to black, and then throw you into the next scene. That's a way that we like to throw people in, and then okay, what is this? They're awake. Okay, 2 sisters. Somebody's dead. Who died? Okay, they talk about the mother. You're like slowly opening up the scene instead of presenting it from the beginning, and we use that a lot. There's the confusion with. That's the walk in the confusion by something holding your hand. You don't know where you are, but you can feel that somebody's holding you. I will be told at some point why I'm confused right now.
That is almost our closing words now, because we're unfortunately already running out of time. It's such a shame that we can't show the other scenes, but for the 2 or 3 people who haven't seen the film, maybe you'll give it a chance. It's still in the cinemas in Germany, or I guess in many other countries as well. We might maybe. Okay, I see your hand and I can't resist. So we have a last question and then we wrap up here.
Thank you so much. It's honestly such an honor to be sharing the same air as you. I think like I think with all your films and Sentimental Value as well, I feel like it's like, I see it as something like The Moon, which is like I walked out being like, that film was made just for me. And then my friends went to see it and they were like, no, it was made just for me. And that's just so powerful. One of my questions is going to be, unlike previous films you've made, the ending is very ties it up in a bow a lot, and it makes it a very happy ending where they seem to be in that lovely far shot of them all working together. They seem to be working together really harmoniously, and in my head, like the alternative could be that they actually, despite sorting out a lot of their problems throughout the film, have a horribly tempestuous relationship working together, and things are not resolved in many ways, or it could even be a sequel. So like, how did you come to that, and at what stage did you come to that being the resolution? And then I was also going to ask
maybe we stay with
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, the air here isn't that, it's a little bit tense, so we're really sharing this air. So, but thanks for the question of the ending. It's something we came up with quite late, and also that's when we knew we had the film. Because we find, I mean, beginnings are fun. You know, you can start a film anywhere, but it's hard to find a good ending, you know? And we found that one, that they collaborate on that film. Spoiler alert for whoever hasn't seen it, but like you said, everything comes together there. I hope it doesn't tie it up with a bow like too obviously, but I feel like every aspect of the film is represented in that scene, you know, which I find great. And also Joachim and I, we were very conscious about this film deals with a lot of heavy issues, but we wanted to be hopeful. We wanted there to be a reconciliation, and that's not that easy because a lot of films, because they're so short, they kind of tell a very simplified version of that, where you have people who hate each other in the beginning and at the end they're like best friends, or like everything's resolved and they hug, you know, it's that. And we felt that wouldn't be true for this story, but we felt it would be enough for Nora and Gustav to, you know, they will probably not have a lot of great conversations about personal stuff when this shoot is over, but by doing this film, by talking about the characters, by talking about, you know, doing the film, they are sort of exploring the father's trauma of losing his mother. They're exploring her issues with depression in a safe way, in an intimate way. They're communicating and they understand each other better and they see each other in a new way. But they're still, like, if they began there, at the end they're there, you know? They're not hugging, there will still be awkward Christmases, I think. You know, it's not entirely resolved, but I think that's enough for it to be a happy ending. I hope.
I have one closing anecdote on that. The ending scene and the beginning scene with the music coming in on Oslo and down to the house and into the beginning of the first montage was the two first scenes that I showed to Joachim that I thought was working, with the music in the beginning and music at the end. And I called up Joachim and said, you got to see this. He hadn't seen anything. And then I called him up and he was in the gym. And I said, okay, you have to switch to FaceTime video. So he switched to, and I showed him. So he was like standing like this, sweating, and people in the back like pumping iron. I said, you got to watch this. So I showed him the beginning and I showed him the end. And he was like, yes, we got it. Now we just got to sort out the 2.5 hours in between.
That's a beautiful ending. I think we almost now cut to black, but before that, we thank you so much for this inspiring talk.
Thank you.
And we really hope it won't take more than 10 years to have you back, so hopefully to have you both back for Berlinale Talents, for other programs. Thank you all for being with us over the last 6 days, and now enjoy the night.
Thank you.